Let's talk about mindset. The idea is very simple. Inside of each of us, there is a miserable little chump. This little chump is never going away. This little chump will always be there, okay? And this little chump in particular doesn't want to learn new skills. It's important to understand why, okay? Little chump is afraid of failure. Trying something new, little chump is afraid of a failure. We all know this person. He's inside of all of us. Little chump is afraid of looking bad. We know this person. Everybody does, right? And little chump is afraid of letting go. And that's the one that's a little bit harder to understand, both in life and in chess. So let me give some examples. In my own experience, I've found that after a terrible setback in life, it's very natural to grab onto an external ideology or religion to give oneself a feeling of superiority over others. And that feeling of superiority allows oneself to feel good about the situation they are in. And I was a victim of that at one point. And when I see people now who are yelling about something, I know, oh, in fact, this is a very fragile person who is not ready to grow. Why can't you grow when you are holding on to something external? Because it is an externality, whether it's a religion or some political belief that you have, right? It's something outside of yourself. You are not going to be growing, and that you're just going to be spinning your head around and around in that thing. Now, with chess, it's a little bit more subtle, but it's really the same thing. You see people fetishizing their openings, for example. Oh, I'm a Najdorf player. I would never do anything, I'd never play the London. How gross and disgusting, the London, right? So there's these little things that we do in chess to hold ourselves up above the failures that we inevitably face, right? We feel good about ourselves when we say these things. We might even say we're a particular kind of player. We'll talk more about that in a second. Obviously, whether in life or in chess, if you want to grow, you have to let go of these externalities. It doesn't mean that your political belief isn't true. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But that's not the thing that you can grow with, right? That can't be the fundamental thing of what's going on in your life if you want to grow. If you want to be the miserable little chump, that's all there for you, right? Okay, let me give some examples in chess where I think you can see the growth mindset most clearly. We've all taken a draw out of fear. And there's like a short-term sense of gratitude of not having lost, right? And maybe not looking bad, right? It's a very, feels good to not lose, right? And one of the things in life and in chess with the chump is the chump is afraid of looking bad, both to others and to himself, right? The ego will be bruised. So right there, short-term versus long-term, very clear in this example of the draw. And we've all done it, at least those of us who've been around for a long time. Another classic example, I see this all the time, especially young players that want to play up into the next highest section. Let's say they're rated 1400, they want to play in the over 1800 section. Now, their ostensible narrative for this is that they want to gain rating points. But in fact, I will tell you why they are doing this, why you see this en masse. Because they are afraid that if they played in their actual section where they would be, and they had a middling result, they would have to recognize themselves as actually having the rating that they have. They want to see themselves as higher. They want to see themselves as in the over 1800. Maybe they'll get they might get there someday, right? But at the moment, they need to prove themselves and grow in the battle, in the scrum of the section in which they are in. This next point, I think, is the most interesting, let's call it fact of chess improvement that I've learned in the last couple of years. And this is from the book, Think Like a Super GM. What they discovered, basically analyzing the thought processes of a variety of skill levels of player, is that the stronger the player, the more that player would try to refute their own ideas. So put yourself in the mindset of the chess player for a second, right? You find an idea over the board. oh, it feels beautiful. Your hand is reaching to play this thing. You feel great. You feel affirmation in this move. The stronger the player, though, will have the more humility they will have and say, I can check myself here. I can look deeper into this move, right? And a lot of times then those players find either something wrong with it or maybe even a better move, or maybe the chance to elaborate the idea, the initial intuition, right? And that's where truly strong players are born. And you can see that this example in chess definitely plays out in other areas of life. Okay, next thing I want to point out with chess is especially young NMs, National Masters, and FIDE Masters have an incomplete game, okay? And what I especially notice is many of them have become quite good at, let's call them quick tactics and openings. Those are precisely the things that don't require that much sweat work, system 2 thinking, to achieve them. Right? You can do those. You can do puzzles all day long on chess.com. It goes boom, boom, boom. Same thing with something on Chessable, learning an opening. You can do it, right? But it's not going to be the deep sweat work that's going to be required to actually learn the game. And this is something very important, I think, I want to stress with chess. If you want to grow, you must be doing system 2 work. It's not going to happen in any fast way. And the fast ways are interesting to me because those are the kinds of activities where really you're just checking out of life. You might as well be playing a video game, right? Whereas the sweat work, oh man, you're going to have to really sit down and you have the possibility of failure, right? Because you will, anytime you do system 2, you're going to be exhausted. It's going to hurt a little bit, right? It's not going to be some easy thing. One of my favorite things about this book, from which mindset comes from, is the idea that you should give your chump a name. Okay, so let me give you some examples. First, let's talk about 2 of my students. Okay, we got Reactive Ronaldo. I've seen many Reactive Ronaldos, in fact. Usually these are older dudes. You know, they've been burned tactically so many times that every move they make is scared, is passive. And that prevents them from really experiencing the true beauty of the game, to see the bigger picture. And instead they're cowering. You know, they're cowering all the time. And that, what does the growth mindset require? It says, bro, I get it that you've been traumatized. And the trauma is in a way a good thing. You should be able to learn from it and say, let's move on to the next level of chess thinking. Another example, okay, I got Romantic Ronaldo. Okay, we have Reactive Ronnie and Romantic Ronaldo. And Romantic Ronaldo is a different student of mine. He always wants to make the fancy move, the sacrifice. Does he want to think really long on it? No. What he wants is he wants the affirmation of having played a beautiful move. He wants me and others to witness these beautiful moves. And he wants to his chump in there is like, I want you to see me as somebody beautiful because that's who I am. I'm smart. I'm a genius. Check me out. This is who I am. And I am affirming my geniusness by playing in this way. We've seen this person in a variety of walks of life, not just in chess. And if that person wants to grow, they have to realize, oh, I might have a predilection towards romantic moves. That might itself be fine. But I need to do the work in order to actually prove that to myself, right? To grow my game. Because it's not just going to happen just because you saw a beautiful thing. And a lot of people really identify with that style. You know, you see that a lot. Let me talk a little bit about myself, because I have my own dude. I call him Dude, you know? I call him Dude. I named him Dude because he goes like this, dude. You know, you can't do that, boss. You can't. Just forget about it, right? Let me give you some examples. Like when I see the YouTube videos with Aronian and Carlson doing memory tests, I'm just like, oh, dude, I forget about it. Boss, right? Really hard to imagine. Or I see Ivanchuk doing his autistic thing where he's able to calculate variations to the nth. It's just like, man. And those can become limiting barriers, have been for myself. Another example is my friend Josh Friedel years ago was showing me the rook and bishop versus rook endgame, and he had just like mapped it out in a way that I felt was unfathomable. And what you will experience in chess, if you're around long enough, is you will come upon people who have a skill set that you find like, whoa, no way, Baus, no way. And in fact, something like Carlsen's memory, it's not like you can train yourself to do it. But something I want to say as a player who's not that talented is you can still compete with these people, you know, even if they have some incredible skill set. And that's remarkable. And in fact, chess intelligence, let's just say, it's a beautiful thing. It's not as narrow as what we call IQ. IQ, they can't do memory because that would be culturally, significant. They can't do some kind of learned skill. We have a lot of that in chess, right? You can't have cunning. You can't have, the deep reserves of system 2 that you're going to need to play a long game. There's a lot to chess intelligence, what I'm saying. So the growth in there is really the possibility for growth in chess. It's huge. It's massive, the things that you can learn to do. In my own case, for example, I was really limited just with this one endgame. And then with the ChessDojo, I knew that I had to do it. So I set it as one of the things you have to do in the dojo. And then boom, I did it. It's not that hard. It took me a little bit, but fine, I can do it, right? And that's an example, a small example, but meaningful of what the growth mindset means in chess. Further, I want to say this, for the long-time improvers, of which I am myself one, the hardest aspect, and this is where dude really, he comes at me, man. The hardest is really to get after it every day. Because studying chess once in a while, no, that's easy, man. That's joyful. Very enjoyable to study chess, honestly. But every day, there's a lot of stuff going on. I got to make time for that, right? Other things are shouting at me in life, right? And I have to believe that there's some kind of progress actually happening. When you're an older dude, the stats don't look good for that either, right? So there's a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of the guy dude sitting in my head talking to me every morning when I go to do it, right? And not only that, but it would be easy for me to sit there and then do non-sweat work. It's clear I got to sit there and be doing things like going over my games, reviewing, stuff like the endgame algorithms in the dojo, doing the calculation exercises, right? All of that is a process where dude, the little chump in my head, that dude's talking at me all the time. And so the key point of the mindset book for me is just to recognize that you have this chump, to name this chump. Very productive to name the chump. And then once you name this fool, you're able to at least see him. You're not going to get rid of him, okay? But you can see him and realize that that's the fool who's holding you back. There it is.